So okay, I just put a bunch of random numbers that I came up with at the top of my head in this array. So this array actually contains 8 items. Let's say I wanted to print out all the items from this array that are even. All the even numbers. So as humans, we could quickly glance and see, okay, the 4, the 8, the 2, and the 14 are the even numbers here. But I want to tell the computer to do that. Find all the even numbers and print them out. So since this array has 8 items in it, I'm going to run a loop 8 times. And I'm going to say, we're going to start that same index trick, right? We're going to make a variable called index and start it out at 0. And as we loop through the array, we're going to increase index by 1. But then as we go through the array, we say if array index, meaning if, so the first time we run this loop, array index is 4, right? If whatever we pull out from that index in the array is divisible by 2, then print it out. Print out whatever array index is. And that does the trick. So again, let's walk through this again carefully. So there's nothing really new here that you haven't seen before. It's just another application of this stuff. So I'm going to keep track as I loop through the array. So at the beginning, index is 0, right? As indicated on line 4. So the first time I run the loop, if array index, so index is 0, so what is array index?
4.
Array index is the 4. So if 4 is divisible by 2, which it is, then print that 4. Print array index. And then move on where we increase index by 1. We now run our loop the second time. Index is now 1. We say if array 1, which is the 8, is divisible by 2, which it is, print array index, which is the 8. We increase index by 1. The index is now 2. If array is divisible, if array index, which is the 2, is divisible by 2, which it is, we print it. Increase index, so now index is 3. Now in this case, when index is 3, array index is actually a 3, coincidentally. That's confusing. Let me change that to a 9. So if array 3, which is the 9, is divisible by 2, the 9 is not divisible by 2. So we skip over line 8 and we conclude the end. We conclude the if statement. We then move on and increase index by 1. So index is now 4, and we begin the loop again. So effectively, we end up printing out only the even numbers that are contained within this array. Yeah?
So is writing that if statement, is that the same as putting if blah blah else in?
Yeah, I could put, if I understand you correctly, I could put an else there, like else otherwise do nothing.
Right.
But I don't have to put the else.
Right. But it's the same.
Yeah, this would be the same result.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you don't always have to have an else. You know, this would just, without the else, it simply reads, you know, if this, then do that. Move on. You know, otherwise. We don't necessarily have to say otherwise do nothing. That just sort of happens on its own. Any other questions about this? Again, this is. I mean, obviously the big thing is practice, but I think also one thing that really needs to sink in is how you access something from an array, right? When I say array 7, what does that give me?
The 8th element of your array.
Yeah, which is 14. And the fact that I call this array is coincidental. That's just because I gave the array this nickname. If I called it, you know, Gina, then I would say Gina 7, and that would give me the 14. So I think that's one of the pieces that hasn't sunken in to everyone yet. So, but that's over time will become more natural. So on line 9, when you see array brackets index, like what is that? So that is referencing the entire array and looking up whatever item is at this particular number. So array 0 would give me 4. Array 7 would give me the 14. As soon as Ruby says array index, that is immediately replaced by the appropriate value, by the appropriate item from the array. And then we check if that particular number is divisible by 2. If it is, we do something. What do? We end up printing that very number. Again, it still takes practice. As much as I can explain it, it still takes practice. It's like me showing you 100 times how to play the flute, which I don't know how to play, by the way. But I could show you 100 times, but like you just still need to practice it.